The invasion begins. The primitive killing tool glinted under the museum lights as Chris polished it for display. The M16, an artifact from Earth's tumultuous past, had seen countless battles. Now it was just a relic in a glass case, part of a human history exhibit on the Fangi homeworld. Security consultant Ferris, a tall and slender Fangi with iridescent scales, snorted as he watched Chris work. What can humans teach the Fangi about security? He sneered. Chris ground his teeth, placing the M16 under glass with a deliberate care. More than you might think, he muttered, thinking of the ancestors who had died holding those guns, fighting for freedom. The Fangi laughed, shaking his head. Those relics belong in a museum, not on a battlefield. Suddenly, alarms blared through the building, and Fangi officials began to shout orders in their sharp, guttural language. Chris ran to the window and saw fireballs raining from the sky, dropships and fighters. A full-scale invasion of the Fangi homeworld by the Korth, a brutal insectoid race known for their relentless aggression. Varys' eyes widened with fear. The Korth have come in force. Chris grabbed Varys by the arm. Your fancy modern weapons won't stop them. They have energy shields that shrug off plasma and lasers. Those old human guns behind glass are your only hope. Varys looked at him with a mixture of disbelief and desperation. You're mad. Chris shook him. I'm the only one who can save you. Trust me. With a reluctant nod, Varys led Chris through the embattled city to the museum. Smoke choked the air, and energy blasts sizzled past as they sprinted through the streets. Inside the museum, a cluster of wide-eyed officials huddled around a flickering hologram map. Chris pushed his way to the front. Your modern weapons are useless against their shields. We need to use the kinetic weapons, the bullets from the exhibit. The officials stared at him, incredulous. One began to laugh. You want us to use primitive gunpowder against an advanced alien invasion? Chris grabbed the man's shoulders, shaking him. You don't have a choice. It's your only shot. Another explosion shook the building, closer this time. The laughter died away, replaced by grim silence. Varys swallowed hard and nodded. All right, human. We'll try it your way. But if this fails, we're all dead. Chris wasted no time. He led the Fangi to the exhibit hall, unlocking the cases and handing out rifles, submachine guns, and the heavy M2 Browning. These are your new best friends, he said, quickly showing them how to load, aim, and fire. The Fangi learned fast, fear and adrenaline overriding their skepticism. They barely had time to catch their breath before the first Korth appeared, a towering insectoid warrior in glittering techno-armor. It strolled down the street with the arrogance of a being accustomed to easy conquest. Chris took aim with the M16 and fired. The bullet punched through the Korth's center of mass, sending it staggering to the ground in a clatter of metal limbs. A ragged cheer went up from the Fangi, but Chris was already scanning for more targets. More are coming. Get ready, he shouted, his voice carrying over the noise of battle. The Korth poured into the street, plasma rifles flashing, but the bullets from the human guns met them from every direction. Chris dove into the rhythm of the fight, directing the Fangi militia with precision. Flanking team, move up. Keep them pinned. Varys appeared at his shoulder, clutching the captured plasma rifle. I can't believe it. It's working. We're pushing them back. Chris nodded, dropping another alien with a precise headshot. Don't get cocky. They're just getting started. The Fangi's stand. The tide of battle had shifted. The Fangi militia, once the laughingstock for fumbling with ancient earth weapons, now fought like seasoned warriors. Varys stood shoulder to shoulder with Chris, his Thompson submachine gun chattering as he laid down suppressing fire. The Korth fell back, their plasma rifles unable to penetrate the hail of lead. I never thought I'd say this, Varys panted, slamming a fresh magazine into his gun. But you were right, human. These primitive weapons are turning the tide. Chris nodded, picking off a Korth soldier with a well-aimed shot from his M1 Garand. Glad you're seeing things my way, but don't get cocky. The bugs are just getting started. As if on cue, a thunderous rumble shook the ground. Chris risked a glance over the barricade and felt his blood run cold. Korth tanks, their hulls gleaming with advanced alloys, rolled down the street. Infantry in heavy exoskeletons marched alongside them, energy shields shimmering. They're adapting, Chris hissed. Those shields will hold up against our small arms. Varys's eyes widened. What do we do now? We can't stop that with what we have. Chris's mind raced. They needed something bigger, something that could punch through those shields and armor. Then it hit him. There's one more weapon in the museum, a Davy Crockett tactical nuke. It's our only chance. Varys recoiled as if slapped. A nuclear weapon on our own planet. Are you insane? Chris grabbed Varys by the shoulders. If we don't stop them here, you won't have a planet left to worry about. That tank column is heading straight for your capital. We have to take out their command center, and the Davy Crockett is the only thing that can do it. For a long moment, Varys was silent, explosions and screams echoing in the distance. Finally, he closed his eyes and nodded. Do it, he said, his voice barely a whisper. Ancestors forgive me, but do it. Chris clasped the Fangi's shoulder. I'll need volunteers. It's a one-way trip. To his surprise, dozens of Fangi stepped forward, their faces set with determination. Chris picked a small team, knowing that speed and stealth were their only allies now. They raced through the shattered streets, dodging Korth patrols and artillery strikes. The command center loomed ahead, a fortified bunker bristling with defenses. We'll never get through that, one of the Fangi said, despair in his voice. Chris unslung a bulky weapon from his back. We don't have to. This is an M22 flash rocket launcher. It'll punch a hole right through their outer defenses. The rocket streaked forward, detonating in a billowing fireball that consumed gun emplacements and energy shields alike. Chris and his team charged through the breach, Fangi energy weapons and human ballistic arms working in tandem. They fought like demons, each step paid for in blood. At last, they reached the heart of the command center. Chris hefted the Davy Crockett, the weapon eerily small for the payload it carried. He met the eyes of his team and saw the resolve there. They knew what had to be done. For Earth, Chris said softly. And for Fangi, Varys added. Chris aimed the launcher and pulled the trigger, even as Korth soldiers swarmed towards them. The world went white, then red, then black. In the instant before the nuclear fire consumed them, Chris thought he heard the bugs screaming. It sounded like victory. The aftermath. Chris staggered to his feet, every bone in his body aching. The command center was gone, replaced by a crater, a gaping wound in the earth. Buildings for blocks around had been flattened, reduced to rubble. Fires raged unchecked, filling the air with choking black smoke. The Korth were in chaos. Their neat formations had shattered, soldiers running in every direction. Some fired wildly. Others simply stood, stunned. Fall back. Chris heard someone shout. Full retreat. It was over. They had won. But the cost. Chris stumbled back to where Varys lay. The Fangi's eyes were closed, his face peaceful despite the terrible wound in his back. Chris sank to his knees beside his friend, grief and exhaustion overwhelming him. He barely registered the approach of his team, their whoops of joy and cries of victory. They led him away, back through the ruined streets to the Fangi lines. There he was greeted as a hero. The Fangi High Council themselves came to shake his hand, to thank him for his sacrifice. They offered technology, resources, an alliance with Earth. Chris shook his head. No, he said, his voice rough. We have to find our own way, earn our place. They didn't understand, but they accepted his decision with the solemnity it deserved. The journey back to Earth was a blur of debriefings, medical exams, and psych evals. Through it all, Chris felt numb, going through the motions while his mind was light years away in a burning city on a distant world. Months later, Chris received a transmission from Fandy. It was an image, a statue of two figures, side by side, one human and one Fangi. Chris and Varys, immortalized in stone and metal, the weapons that had saved a planet in their hands. Below was a simple plaque, in honor of the courage and sacrifice of Christopher Thompson and Varys, whose unlikely alliance saved our world and reminded us of the strength of the human spirit. Chris wept then, great shuddering sobs that seemed to come from his very soul. For Varys, for the Fangi who had died, for the burden he now carried. But when the tears dried, he felt a new sense of purpose. He would ensure that Earth was ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. That when humanity took its place among the stars, it would do so as a force to be reckoned with. For Varys, for Earth, for the future. A new threat. The years ticked by, humanity's star rising with each new alliance and technological breakthrough. Chris Thompson found himself at the forefront of this rapid progress, his experience on Fandy having earned him a position of great influence within Earth's military hierarchy. He worked tirelessly to ensure humanity's readiness for whatever challenges the cosmos might throw their way. One late night at the office, Chris's secretary buzzed him. "General Thompson, sir, there's a delegation of Fangi here to see you. They say it's urgent." Chris furrowed his brow. Fangi here on Earth. After all these years, he had a sinking feeling in his gut as he told his secretary to send them in. The delegation was small, just 3 Fangi. Chris recognized the leader immediately. "Venus, is that you? What brings you all the way to Earth?" Venus, who had been a young aide to Varys during the Korth invasion, looked grim. "I'm afraid it's not good news, General Thompson. The Korth have rebuilt their forces. They've formed an alliance with the Zeril and Adrano, and they're planning an invasion of Earth." Chris felt his blood turn to ice. An invasion? But why Earth? "We have no quarrel with them." "Revenge," Venus said simply. "They want to make humanity pay for the humiliation they suffered on our homeworld. They know it was you who led the defense." Chris sank into his chair, his mind racing. An invasion of Earth, the thought was almost too terrible to contemplate. He looked up at Venus. "How long do we have?" "A matter of months, perhaps less," Venus replied. "The Fangi are prepared to stand with you, General. We can have a fleet here within weeks, ready to fight alongside humanity." For a moment, Chris was tempted. The thought of facing the Korth again, this time with the might of the Fangi behind them, was appealing. But then he remembered the promise he had made all those years ago. "I appreciate the offer, Venus, truly. But this is humanity's fight. We have to stand on our own 2 feet. It's the only way we'll ever truly be ready for what's out there." He stood, feeling the weight of the coming battle settle on his shoulders. "I'll start rallying our forces immediately. We'll be ready for them." Venus looked like he wanted to argue but simply nodded. "I understand, General. But know that the Fangi are here if you need us." Varys would have wanted it that way. The name hit Chris like a physical blow. Varys, his friend, his brother in arms, the Fangi who had saved his life at the cost of his own. Even after all these years, the memory still hurt. He clasped Venus' shoulder. "Thank you, my friend. I won't forget it." As the Fangi delegation left, Chris turned to the large window behind his desk. Earth hummed there, blue and green and perfect, a jewel in the blackness of space. He had fought for this world before, had bled for it, and he would do so again as many times as it took. He activated his comm. "This is General Thompson. I need the Joint Chiefs in my office immediately. We have an invasion to plan for." The response was immediate and affirmative. As Chris watched the sun rise over the curve of the Earth, he felt a grim sense of determination settle over him. The Korth were coming, but humanity would be ready for them. They had to be. The battle for Earth. Months later, the sky over Earth erupted in fire. The Korth had arrived, their ships darkening the heavens like a swarm of angry locusts. But they did not find a helpless, unprepared planet waiting for slaughter. They found a world ready for war. Humanity's forces met the invaders head-on, a united front of soldiers, pilots, and ships bristling with the most advanced weapons Earth had to offer. And at the forefront of it all was General Chris Thompson. He led the charge, his tactical brilliance and intimate knowledge of Korth weaknesses proving invaluable in the early stages of the war. Under his guidance, humanity scored victory after victory, driving the Korth back from Earth's orbit. But the invaders were relentless, their numbers seemingly endless. For every ship humanity destroyed, 3 more took its place. The war dragged on, months turning into years, the death toll mounting on both sides. Through it all, Chris fought on, driven by an unbreakable will and a promise made to a fallen friend. He pushed himself to the brink, taking on mission after mission, always leading from the front. His name became a rallying cry for Earth's forces, a symbol of humanity's indomitable spirit. But even the mightiest warriors have their limits. As the war entered its 4th year, Chris knew that something had to change. The Korth were simply too strong, their alliance too vast. Earth was on the brink of collapse, its resources and manpower stretched to the breaking point. In a last desperate gambit, Chris gathered a small team of Earth's best and brightest. Their mission: to infiltrate the Korth flagship and eliminate their leadership. It was a suicide mission, and they all knew it. But if it worked, it could end the war in a single stroke. The infiltration was a success, but the price was high. Chris's team fought their way to the bridge, cutting down Korth warriors with a combination of advanced energy weapons and the same ancient firearms that had saved the Fangi all those years ago. One by one, they fell, until only Chris was left standing amidst a sea of corpses, both human and Korth. He confronted the Korth leader, a towering behemoth of chitin and hate. The battle was fierce, a clash of wills as much as weapons. In the end, Chris emerged victorious, but at a terrible cost. As he lay there, his lifeblood pooling around him, he received word from Earth. The Korth were surrendering. The war was over. Earth was safe. In his final moments, Chris's thoughts turned to all those who had given their lives in this war and in the wars before it. He thought of his team, of the brave men and women who had followed him on this final, fateful mission. And he thought of Varys, the Fangi who had shown him the true meaning of friendship and sacrifice. "We did it, Varys," he whispered, his voice barely audible over the klaxons and warning lights of the dying Korth ship. "We showed them what humanity is capable of, what we're willing to do to protect our own." As his vision faded, Chris took solace in the knowledge that Earth would go on, that humanity would continue to reach for the stars. And he knew, with a certainty that defied death itself, that whatever challenges lay ahead, humanity would be ready for them. For that was the true legacy of General Christopher Thompson and all those who had fought and died at his side. A legacy of courage, of sacrifice, and of an unbreakable spirit that would carry humanity to the stars and beyond. Rebuilding and reflection. With the Korth defeated and their alliance shattered, Earth began the long process of rebuilding. The scars of war were evident everywhere: cities in ruins, families mourning their lost loved ones, and a planet exhausted by the relentless conflict. Yet, amidst the devastation, there was also a profound sense of hope and resilience. Humanity had faced one of its greatest challenges and emerged victorious. The lessons learned from the war were invaluable, shaping the future of Earth's defense and diplomacy. The alliances forged in the heat of battle grew stronger, and Earth became a respected member of the galactic community. Chris Thompson's name was immortalized in history books, his legacy celebrated in monuments and ceremonies. His strategies and bravery were studied by military academies across the galaxy, and his sacrifice became a symbol of the unyielding human spirit. On Fangi, the statue of Chris and Varys stood as a testament to their friendship and the cooperation that had saved the world. It became a place of pilgrimage, where people from all over the galaxy came to pay their respects and draw inspiration. For Guinness and the Fangi, the memory of Varys and the human who had fought alongside him was a source of pride and a reminder of what could be achieved through unity and determination. They honored the promise Chris had made to stand on their own and be ready for whatever came next. As Earth rebuilt, it also innovated. The war had spurred technological advancements that pushed humanity further into the cosmos. Space travel became more common, and new colonies were established on distant worlds. The spirit of exploration, tempered by the harsh lessons of war, drove humanity to seek out new frontiers and build a better future. A new era. Years passed, and the galaxy entered a new era of peace and cooperation. The once feared Korth were now a humbled race, their aggression tempered by the harsh defeat they had suffered. The Zeril and Dreno, having lost their most powerful ally, sought new paths of reconciliation and diplomacy. Earth, under the leadership of those who had learned from the past, became a beacon of hope and stability. The United Earth Federation, as it was now known, worked tirelessly to maintain peace and foster understanding among the diverse races of the galaxy. In this new era, the legacy of General Christopher Thompson and Varys lived on. Their story was told and retold, a reminder of the power of courage, sacrifice, and friendship. It inspired countless individuals to strive for greatness, to overcome their differences, and to face the unknown with bravery and resolve. As humanity continued its journey among the stars, it did so with the knowledge that it was part of something greater, a galactic community bound together by shared experiences and a common desire for peace. The future was uncertain, but with the lessons of the past and the unbreakable spirit of its people, humanity was ready for whatever lay ahead. The never-ending story-maker 1.6 had fulfilled its promise, creating a narrative that challenged imagination and explored endless possibilities. The story of Chris Thompson and Varys, and the countless others who had fought and sacrificed, became a timeless epic, a tale that would inspire generations to come. And so, the story continued, each new chapter building upon the last, a never-ending journey through the boundless expanse of the universe. The adventure, the struggle, and the triumph of the human spirit were immortalized in the stars, a legacy that would endure forever.